Welcome to today's press conference with Director of Athletics Kirby Hocutt regarding Texas Tech Lady Raider basketball. We will be utilizing the raise hand function within Zoom. If you have a question, please press the raise hand button, and you will be called on sequentially. When called on, please state your name and affiliation followed by your question. After your question is answered, you will be allowed one follow-up question as time allows. If you have other questions, please raise your hand again and you will be called on after those in front of you. We are recording today's press conference, so if you are unable to record yourself for whatever reason, we can arrange to have it sent out this afternoon at the conclusion of the call. We'll begin with a quick opening statement and then open it up for questions.
Good afternoon. We terminated, as you know by now, our contract last night with Marlene Stollings as our women's basketball coach. We terminated our contract with cause based on objectionable behavior. We have asked assistant coach Malika Willis to remain in her role as we go through this transition. Other members of the women's basketball coaching staff have been let go. I want to begin by recognizing the members of our Lady Raider basketball team, a strong group of young women. And I apologized to them yesterday for what they have experienced. And I want to do the same publicly today. We have failed them, and we have to do better. They are strong, and I appreciate the strength and the courage that they have displayed. These should be the best years of their lives. We should be mentoring them for life and to learn lessons that they will carry with them forever. And that's not been their experience. And for that, I apologize. And we're going to get this right. Let me share some background with you, and then I'll answer your questions. When Marlene Stollings came to Texas Tech, she took over a program that had fallen deeply, and we knew that rebuilding would be a process. We made competitive improvement in year one. And following Marlene's first season, a small group of team members visited Dr. Judy Henry, our senior woman administrator, and shared some things that they had witnessed within the program and that they were concerned about. Dr. Henry had a discussion with Marlene, protecting those team members' identity who had come forward. And by all indications, things improved for a time being. Following this interaction, after the first year, we also received comments from members of our program via our end of season survey instrument. Some comments received were not aligned with our expectations. Both Dr. Henry and myself separately visited with Marlene about this feedback and provided a copy of these comments to her. Again, we were assured that this was not the culture within the program and there would be a healthy environment of well-being within the women's basketball program. Again, by indications, things improved. As we entered Marlene's second season, the 2019-2020 season, as things progressed, there were indication that things were not where we had hoped for them to be or where we had expected them to be. I started going to the locker room after home games, started dropping by practice when I could, and determined that it was going to be necessary at the end of the basketball season to have an in-depth review of the program. I asked 4 individuals to be a part of this review process. Tony Hernandez, who's the Deputy Athletics Director, Brian Shannon, who serves as our Faculty Athletic Representative, Glenn Mellinger, who serves as a Title IX investigator here at Texas Tech, and Jody Billingsley, Assistant Vice President for Human Resources here at Texas Tech. Let me state at this particular time that the Title IX allegation involving one of our former strength and conditioning coaches was filed after the season ended through the appropriate procedure on our campus. I was made aware of this Title IX complaint on March 25th, and the employee was no longer employed at Texas Tech on March 27th. Back to Marlene's second season. As the basketball season, as we're aware, came to an abrupt end this year, we entered the various shutdown phases associated with COVID, and we pushed to begin the review in early April, and it extended through the month of June. I was growing impatient, wanting to know the findings of the review, and I asked for a verbal report rather than continuing to wait for a draft to be developed and finalized. After I received a verbal report of this review, there were a lot of things to reflect on. There were concerning things, of which the most concerning was the Title IX allegation that I just mentioned. But there were also indications of improvement from year one to year two in an area that I believed could be categorized as in the relationship category. So I sat down with Marlene the first part of July, and we discussed the review as well as a possible pathway forward. But the final part of the review was for me to meet with the team to discuss the review and have a chance to visit with them. This final part of the review, my visit with the team, Marlene wanted to schedule on July the 22nd, but I was unavailable that day due to a scheduled donor trip. So the meeting with me and the team was rescheduled for Wednesday, July the 29th. The day before, Tuesday, July 28th, Marlene asked if we could move the meeting back a week because one of our student athletes was going to have surgery that particular day, and it was important that we had all returning student athletes in the meeting with me. So we rescheduled it for Wednesday, August the 5th. I had the chance to meet with the team this Wednesday, and subsequently I met with the team and the coaches that day. There were a lot of things that we talked about at that time, and I felt it was going to be best if we took the rest of the day to reflect, to sleep on it, and then to continue the conversation the following day, which was yesterday. I met with the team again yesterday morning, took time to reflect on the situation, the totality of everything that I had learned up to that point, and recommended to President Skuvanek that we make a change in leadership. We will be better. We have to be better. And with that, I am happy to answer your questions.
First up, we'll go to David Collier.
Kirby, first off, the Board of Regents met yesterday as well. Was there any contact with them, and did they have any part in this decision that was made yesterday?
Yes, the Board of Regents met yesterday, and I made my recommendation to President Skuvanek after I met with the team and again took time to reflect. As you may or may not know, I was a part of the Board of Regent meeting yesterday and did have the opportunity to, with President Skuvanek, to apprise them of the situation and to answer any questions that they had had. But I made my recommendation and it was accepted by President Skuvanek prior to me going to the Board of Regent meeting yesterday, David.
Follow up on that, Marlene's contract goes through 2024. How much of the remainder of that contract do you guys plan to compensate her with?
Yeah. David, at the beginning of my statement, just to reiterate, we terminated our agreement for cause based on objectionable behavior, and we will not be responsible for any more financial requirements to Marlene Stollings.
Up next, we have Daniel Libet.
Hi, Kirby. Daniel Libet at the Intercollegiate. A couple of things. One, you just described a situation or a time frame where you were almost about to terminate her in the normal course of events, independent of the story that Jory and I wrote yesterday for USA Today. Is that the impression you're trying to leave people with, that this was all about to happen anyway? And two, given that you as athletic director abided by this coach for 2 years of fairly consistent and alarming allegations, ethically speaking, should the university continue to employ you as its athletic director?
Yeah, Daniel, I'll take those in two separate segments here. First, we were going down a path with our discussion and continued review, and I'm not sure if our meeting would not have taken place on the same day that the article came out, if we would have had the same type of dialogue between the team and I that we did. I don't know that. I walked you through the timeline of that final step of the meeting and how it was delayed and the date it was scheduled on. If it would have been on a day different than when the article came out, would the conversation and discussion have been as open and free flowing as it was with the team? I don't know that, but I trust that they would have shared their feelings and their experience with me. So that's the facts are the only message that I'm trying to send here. Number two, I would state that, while we were aware of the concerns that the young women brought forward after the first season, we were not aware of the magnitude to which they had occurred or to the magnitude that it had affected the young women in our locker room. And, each and every day, I guarantee you that I give my absolute best to educate, serve, and grow fearless champions, to do what we have to do to train young men and young women and prepare them for life after they leave college with a degree from Texas Tech. And that's something that I take a great deal of pride in. Have we let these girls down? We have, and we're going to improve from it. And as far as should I continue as athletics director at Texas Tech, that is President Skubanek's decision. But I'm confident in his trust, and he knows my commitment to the 415 student athletes that we serve every day.
Up next, we have Jory Epstein.
Kirby, you walked us through some of the timeline, including this meeting that had been delayed. But given the statement that you gave for the story on Tuesday and your decisions in the few days since, what did you find out in the last few days that led to you making this decision to make a coaching change?
Just how deep the trust had been broken, the trust and the lack of relationships with the young women that are in this program. I think at the center of everything was just the lack of trust and the lack of genuine relationships that existed or did not exist. This wasn't a basketball related matter, and the team made certain of that. From an X's and O's standpoint and competitive standpoint on the court, we're very proud of what they've achieved. But this was all about relationships and trust between those adults and leaders that we hire to educate, serve, and grow these young people. And that level of leadership was deficient, and just truly understanding and seeing directly from the young women how void that trust and relationship was, Jory. That's what was paramount and what I saw firsthand on that meeting on Wednesday and subsequently on Thursday.
Thank you. And to follow up, can you take us back to 2018? What was your process researching this staff, and what will be your process going forward to ensure your next coaches cultivate the culture you want in your program?
Yeah, it's all about leadership, right? You get the right head coach in place, and they foster the environment and the culture that allow young people to grow. You know, I'm bullish on this. I don't think anything prepares young people for success in life more than intercollegiate athletics. And sometimes we don't play offense when we talk about that. But I know from my experience and what I get a chance to be a part of each and every day, the intercollegiate athletics, if it's done correctly, teaches lifelong lessons. And we're going to do it correctly within this program. You know, as we went through the search when we hired Marlene, you know, we talked to many of our colleagues and counterparts around the country that had worked with her, had been around her. You know, we knew the staff that she brought, the background. You know, we knew of Nikki Dawkins' situation at New Mexico State. We knew she was terminated there. We knew that was 17 years ago now, and knew that she'd been employed at 6 other universities. But you know, one of those 6 stops was here at Texas Tech. So there was actually some school history with Coach Dawkins, and when she was here following New Mexico State, she was you know, a good employee by everything that we heard, and a good assistant coach. So you know, you go through these and you continue to make sure that you dot every I and cross every T in the search process. And it's been important, and it's more important than ever that we continue to make sure we have as detailed of a process as we possibly can as we move forward in every search that we have.
All right.
And to clarify, was that search with the search firm, or how did you find Marlene?
No, it was, we did not utilize a search firm. It was internal process. It was a national process that we talked to many head coaches and assistant coaches around the country.
All right. Up next, we'll go to Cheryl Coward.
Hi. You talked about Coach Nikita Lowry Dawson, but in her past. But what about Marlene Stollings? I mean, there's been little reports here and there, and of course, you know, talk among head coaches, Division I women's basketball head coaches. What was the process of maybe getting over those hurdles and hiring her, given that as well?
Yeah, you know, as we talked to colleagues and coaches around the country that had interacted with her, that knew her, you know, she had a history of turning around programs and being successful and taking programs that were not achieving at a certain level desired and elevating them. And, you know, had we heard directly any of the concerns that we are now very well aware of, we would have made a different decision. But, you know, the individuals that we talked to from a professional standpoint, there were no flags that were presented to us at the time that we hired Coach Stollings.
And to follow up, how will that impact your future search to find another head coach to lead the program, and what will you look for?
Well, we're going to look for somebody who can come in here with high character and integrity and build a solid foundation of genuine relationships and trust with these young women, and can help us heal the scars of what they have had to endure. And, you know, we want to find somebody who's been very successful within the game of basketball, through playing or coaching, that has a pedigree of success and of those individuals who have done things right. And we want to find the best fit for us at Texas Tech. So those will be the characteristics that we look for as we begin, you know, looking for the next leader after this press conference today.
Up next, we have John Sokoloff.
Hey, Kirby. John Sokoloff with Fox 34. What have those kind of conversations been like with those athletes that are currently committed to the program? And have you heard of any talks of any of them, whether or not they'll leave or if they are sticking around?
You know, John, we have been reaching out to excuse me, the signees today, talking to them about their travel plans to get here to campus, talking to them about the situation. As I sit here, I've not received an update in the last couple of hours, but you know, we're hopeful that the signees will all ultimately make the decision to go ahead and come to Texas Tech. They've got a place at Texas Tech on this roster within this basketball program. They've got a scholarship offer that obviously remains valid, and we hope they will become a part of our basketball program. But we've had individuals reaching out to them throughout the day, and you know, my time has been spent on continuing to communicate with our current basketball team and roster, and I've even started communicating with some of their parents.
And finally, a follow-up to that is what are those kind of conversations like to ensure that, you know, nothing like this, anything like said in this article will happen again, and to kind of ensure that the culture is changing?
Well, that's just it. It's trust in us and who we are and what our expectations are at Texas Tech. And that's important for them to hear and to understand that a situation like we have recently been through is not going to be accepted, and we're going to ensure that culture is in alignment with our expectations, and that is to prepare young people for life, both on and off the basketball court, off the fields, and on and off the track.
Next, we'll go to Ryan King.
Hey, Kirby, it's Ryan King with KLBK Sports. For my first question, I wanted to kind of go off what John just asked there. With 12 players leaving in 2 years and this much problems in just such a short time, what will you guys be changing policy-wise, or what will be changing within Texas Tech? Because you said Tech has to get better. In what ways can you ensure Texas Tech will get better and to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, well, the first step, Ryan, is finding the right leader, and you know, you find the right leader with the right values that will invest into young people, genuinely invest into young people, to take the time and the energy to listen and to build relationships with the young women that are in the locker room. And then you're only as good as those you have around you, as we know, and making sure that we can put the best staff around that individual who's going to also invest in the lives of these young people. So that's how you do it, Ryan, and nothing is more important than ensuring that we find the right leadership. And then you know, we've got to find a way, you know, with all of our programs, to make sure that we're connected, to put the process in place so that young people feel safe in being able to go to somebody to talk about, you know, behavior or conduct that's not appropriate. So, you know, we've also got to find a way administratively to put the process in place, a safe place, that when young people experience this type of behavior and experience, that they can take it to, so we can resolve it long before we get to a situation and a point like this.
And to go off of that, with the leadership in place, athletes said in the article that they would go to Judy Henry with concerns, and practices would actually get harder afterward with retaliation. How can they trust any Title IX concerns or anything going forward with the leadership that's in place, when even if the coach is gone, the leaders that were supposed to be there for them are still in place? How can the athletes still trust that anything will be taken care of when they go back to those same leaders?
Yeah, Ryan, I've obviously read that same piece in the article that came out. You know, I've talked to Judy about that. I talked to Marlene as well about that. You know, I've not heard that directly from the girls that are in the current locker room over the past 2 days. You know, I'm confident that Judy took those those comments to Coach Stollings and address those. And as I mentioned earlier, by the indications that we received, things got better for a time being. You know, and I do think when you go through something like this, it's important you learn and you reset in every way that you can. And you know, we'll be reviewing and you know, our sport liaison assignments, and I would expect that, you know, as we bring a new coaching staff in, we'll probably assign a new administrative liaison to women's basketball just to hit that complete reset button. But specifically retaining to that retaliation, I've not heard that directly from any of the girls in the locker room as of this time.
Up next, we'll go to Christy Martinez.
Good afternoon, Kirby. In reference to allegations that Ralph Petrea sexually harassed players and inappropriately touched several athletes, will you be conducting a more thorough investigation, and pending results, will you stand behind and charge him and others involved?
Christy, you know, the Title IX process that we follow within athletics is the University Title IX process. So all investigations related to Title IX go through the University Title IX office, not athletics. We do not investigate Title IX incidents or allegations. When I became aware of some of the things that were alleged with Ralph, not necessarily being the Title IX side of it, but some other inappropriate behavior, we took those complaints to him. And as I stated, learning about it on March 25th, by March 27th, he was no longer a member of this athletics department. So we're going to continue to do the right thing each and every day. And we will not tolerate anyone who violates Title IX law or expectations, and we'll continue to follow the University Title IX process.
And following, do you believe this is going to affect your future basketball recruiting, especially with female athletes?
I do not. I think that as long as you do the right thing every day, and as when you become aware of situations like this, you take appropriate action and you move forward and you find the right leadership to come and to lead our programs and to lead our young people. This is a very desirable job. This is a locker room that has, again, a group of strong, talented young women. And the indications from the announcement last night to today, I haven't focused on the search process yet, but I'll turn my attention to that. This is a very desirable job. Texas Tech is a great university. Lubbock is a great place to live. The Big 12 Conference is the premier athletic conference, and we've got great resources and fan support here and great young people. This is a great opportunity and a great job. And as people come to Texas Tech and they see who we are and what we're all about, that will continue to sell itself.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Graham Hayes with ESPN. Graham, you there? Graham, I think you're muted. All right, we'll move on to Michelle Vopel.
Yeah. Could you mentioned the lack of relationships and the lack of trust. It seems to me those are pretty fundamental and foundational things for a head coach. Can you maybe share with us what Coach Stollings' explanation for this was, why this was the case with the team? And then also, I know you haven't had much chance to do, think about the search, but is a coach who has Texas Tech affiliation, because there are some we know of, is that person somebody you see desirable to come back to coach there?
Well, Michelle, you're absolutely correct. Trusting, genuine relationships are at the core of everything we do. And as I've shared with our women's basketball team the last couple of days, and again today on the Zoom call, trust and genuine relationships is at the center of any successful organization or business. If you're talking about basketball or being an athletics director or being, a business leader, that is the foundation of everything that has to occur. And I think in this particular situation, there's a disconnect. I believe that the coaches believe that they had that relationship, but it was fractured, and it wasn't anywhere where it needed to be for this program to thrive and to reach the level of success that it's capable of achieving. So you're exactly correct that is foundational and a core component of what's required, and why it wasn't developed further, more genuine over the course of the past two years. I don't know that, but I do know it didn't exist.
Can you comment at all just on, I know it's early in terms of a coaching search, but is a connection, because there are some coaches who played at Texas Tech, is a connection to Texas Tech something you'll look at strongly? I know you've already had with Candy Whitaker, somebody who played, but is that would that be considered a beneficial thing, or is that not a high on the list in terms of the next coach?
That for me would go under fit. I believe I mentioned earlier, we want someone who's going to come in and with great character and build those trusting, foundational, genuine relationships that we just talked about. Want somebody who's been associated with a program, a pedigree that's been very successful in the game of basketball, and somebody who's going to be a great fit here for us within our athletics department program and with our student athletes. So if it's somebody who has previous ties to Texas Tech, great. If not, great. We're going to get the best person for this job.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll go to Peter Barzilai.
Hi, Peter Barzilai from USA Today. Just wanted to ask you a question about the timeline again. So you had 2 years of exit interviews, that showed, there were concerns amongst the players. You had the Title IX issue. I mean, you mentioned that you decided coming into this season that you were going to spend more time around the team because, you'd had conversations with the coach. I guess I'm wondering, after and then on Tuesday you gave us a statement, that you'd said, that you were confident that you were taking the appropriate steps to improve the relationship. Also, as part of that statement, Stollings had given us a statement, that the program was going in the right direction because of hard work, accountability, and fierce determination. So, I mean, after 2 years of red flags, how did you come to the conclusion in less than 2 days that Stollings needed to go? I mean, you mentioned you had a 2-hour conversation with the team. It seems like you did a pretty swift 180 on this after supporting her.
Yeah, I would disagree, Peter. We had 1 year of exit evaluations. So after Marlene's first basketball season, which was 2018, 2019 was the first year, we received comments from the end of the year survey instrument that we use, and those were brought forward and those were addressed. We identified as we went through the course of the season that things weren't necessarily where we had hoped or expected them to be, and we decided to do the in-depth interview. As I mentioned earlier, the Title IX incident wasn't brought forward until after the season was over. Within 48 hours, he was no longer an employee of Texas Tech Athletics, and the review came immediately, when the season was over. And the last piece of the review was me having a chance to sit down and visit with the team. When I talked to Marlene, again, there were certain aspects that I received from the review that there were indications that things from a relationship standpoint had gotten better from year 1 to year 2. And we had had conversations about what we were going to do to continue to focus on strengthening those relationships and trust amongst each other between coaches and team members. And we didn't make it to that point. We got to Wednesday, and when I had a chance to visit with the team, obviously realized the severity and the lack of trust and relationships that existed. So the in-depth program review was initiated immediately following the second basketball season.
Thanks.
All right, we've got 2 more questions. First one from Stephen Hawkins.
Hey, Kirby. One question I had was can you address what Marlene's response was when the decision was made for this termination? And did she offer any explanation, or did she rebuff any of the allegations?
Yeah, Stephen, good afternoon. I met with Marlene yesterday, 6:30, and we came to finalization as to how that we were at a point where we were going to terminate her contractual agreement. And she did not agree with the reasoning behind it. So yeah, obviously it was a continued conversation. The decision had been made, and she did not agree with the findings that we ultimately arrived at.
Kirby, how many years did she have remaining on this contract?
There were 4 years remaining.
Okay, thank you.
And last one, we'll go to David Collier.
Kirby, I know you talked a little bit about the search, but I mean, given the time frame here, it's not like the last time you went through this, you have an abundance of time. Can you give us a timetable of when you would like to have some kind of structure with this program and a new coach in place?
Yeah, obviously, David, the timing of this particular situation is different than what a typical search with women's basketball may be. What I shared with the team this afternoon, and I've shared with a couple of the parents now, we understand the gravity of this process and decision, and what's most important is that we get it right. And we are going to take as much time as necessary. At the same time, we're going to move as expeditiously as possible. And, the volume of interest in this opportunity is extremely high. So we're going to move forward carefully, move forward as quickly as we can, but ultimately take as much time as we need to find the right next leader.
Thank you, Kirby.
All right, thank you everybody for tuning in and participating today. I understand that the video recording might not have worked for you all, so we'll send that out here in the next 30 minutes to an hour once we get it processed and sent out. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, please email me at harry.endicott@ttu.edu.